And good afternoon.
How's everything going over there?
Well, I'm here in a casino in Oklahoma on the border of Texas.
That's
So,
right.
yeah,
Uh, the Choctaw Casino. I've been there many times. It's smoky, but
yeah.
it's very fun.
So, last night we drove in, got here at 6 a.m. and curled into the bed, and I'm feeling pretty good on a day off.
Good.
Definitely, an interesting routing. Right now, we just been through Arkansas, and we were in Texas, Arizona. It's been above 105 degrees every
Yeah.
day. So my usual tour schedule would be get out and go for a walk and maybe find some coffee or maybe find a cool record shop. But
Mhm.
been interesting to kind of like get a lot of time alone in the room, go down to the fitness center, stay fit, and listen to music, and try to keep focused and stay energized, because the more you sit around, the more energy I think it's hard to muster up.
Yeah. Yeah. And just trying not to melt is the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, the temperature I can handle as long as I'm, in the right place and keep myself comfortable. But it's that mental space where I like to get out and walk. We were just in Europe for what, 7 weeks,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
the schedule was a show on, day off, show on, day off,
Mhm.
and we don't sound check. So even the day show, uh, you know, I think we check out of the hotel maybe 5 or 6 or 7. We don't play till 9, so it's like having a full day off the show. The day of the show. So really, a lot of great food for inspiration musically, and to keep the focus on what's important when you're out there in the middle of Zurich or in Dublin or here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
What are you doing really? You're bringing the music to the
Mhm.
stage. You are somehow, in my mind, when people want to get away, you hear about their vacation they plan, or maybe they go into the Amazon and they take a trip, and they disappear for a weekend. But I think what Jane's Addiction can do on stage is, uh, in a sense, a sensation when we're together. What happens, and the people that are with us and take that journey with us, um, there's so many crescendos in the music, so many
Yes.
crescendos in the performance. Even in one song, you can take Summertime Rolls, where the bass line repeats for 8 minutes, but it just keeps growing. That's all it
Mhm.
does. Or even 3 days, where the music changes every 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. We have one part, but the whole thing is a crescendo from small to large. So that
Mhm.
emotional journey, being an instrument, playing the instrument and being part of that ingredient, and then letting people in the room feel it. It's I think it's a responsibility I take very serious. I think if it's done right, I'm making an imprint on the planet that I can be proud of as a musician.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. You want to make an impression on the people you know and don't know. Like, in Los Angeles, I was surrounded by friends and family. I knew most of the people in the audience. Here in Oklahoma, or anywhere else, usually playing to a room full of strangers, but it's just as deep,
Mhm.
a different sense of belonging when you're in LA. But there's just the sense of that depth when you're reaching into people you don't know. You
Mhm.
are awakening memories that we can all share together with the music. We're living in the lyric. The lyrics are so important for the journey. And that to me is a almost like doing a play on stage. Not to say Shakespeare or anybody's words
Mhm.
are timeless, but they are. If someone brings emotion to the stage at a performance, they have to do it once, twice a day, or once, twice a week. It's definitely a responsibility to open up your heart emotionally and let the people in the audience in on the on the inner workings of the music, to be
Mhm.
honest up there and not somehow. There's no charade when I play. I'm pretty raw. and
Mhm.
I'm not acting. Acting is fun, putting on a hat or a suit or a t-shirt, or when you change your outfit, you do act differently, So I mean, I like to act, but there's something great about the music that we make because we can be ourselves. I guess that's it. We don't have to act. We're truly, unique individuals, and that going back to all this time alone in the hotel room for the last, week because of the heat, it gives you a lot of time to think about that.
Mhm.
What am I doing here? And, away from home, you only perform for 90 minutes. So the rest of the day, how do you make sense of it? When I'm in Dublin and walking the streets and just sightseeing, it's easy. When I
Mhm.
was in, Barcelona and just gazing at the architecture and finding new, things to eat, that those things don't so much kind of seep into your thought process, but you have a lot of that time here. And I've always wanted to be a musician since I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I didn't know what that meant really, but I wanted to play music, and I didn't want to work music. I wanted to play it. I wanted to enjoy the sensation of learning something and then sharing that with a friend or an acquaintance, and seeing their reaction,
Mhm.
and it's pretty infectious when it's right, and it can be very, uh derailing of your mental health when it's wrong, and that's you're so committed, just like any kind of team or unit.
Mhm.
So that's where my head's at.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful thing to see the four of you on stage together and just creating that magic, like we used to see back in the day. And I it seems like that good feeling is just still there, right? With the four of you back together.
Well, like I say, that experience on stage, or we have our little jam room behind the
Yeah.
the scene backstage. Those moments are pure, genuine, distilled,
Hmm.
uh, completely, transparent, in the sense that we are only as good as we can be when we're together. The strength really kind of shines.
Hmm.
And all the other nonsense, when you start the band at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, there isn't much else except for, music and in sleep and good times, and now you realize that you have to be a full grown up
Hmm.
and understand how you fit into this world and what you need to do for your partner and your kids and whatever else you have in your life. So it's more than just the back then, when it was the only ingredient that made me happy. There's so many other ingredients in my life now that I can put in my blender for happiness. So it's an interesting way to look at that. What you say, it's happy and it's good times, because that changes as you grow. What really makes you happy, and it's true. The music still does. Playing the music for people is really the most charming thing that can happen. You feel like there's a charm, there's a luck to it if you get to do that for a livelihood. And as you grow older, and rock and roll is so young, to think that, you know, Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis and, you know, eh, some of the originators didn't die that long ago. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, you still have Mick, and you got Keith and Paul, and they were like the second generation. If you think about what Chuck Berry brought,
Hmm.
they were inspired by Chuck, and Chuck. If you think about that kind of implant of lyric that Chuck Berry, and the rhythm of the guitar and the storytelling, and reaching into your heart, making you feel like you can step out of your normal life. That still exists in Jane's Addiction, with that heart of rock and roll. And we like to improvise, and
Yeah.
the love of jazz, or even some of the great rock bands that would improvise, from Cream and Grateful Dead, and a lot of the Zeppelin moments. And some of that stuff got tamed in the 80s and the 90s, and it became more just deliver the goods. But we
Hmm.
still had our heart love to improvise, and that crescendo type of songwriting that we do leaves a lot of room for improvising. And so that's also what makes being on stage and the four of us so special and innate. and we've had some great musicians throughout the years, but the four of us have such a great trust and no judgment that we feel safe, very safe to be. You have to have courage, but then again, it's fun to have that courage when you can lean on someone as well, and they're there to support you.
Yeah.
It's all
Well,
happening. Go ahead.
oh, no, no, no. Go ahead. It's happening. What?
Well, I was saying it's all happening in the moment because
Yeah.
if you down song or up the beach or some of the songs we've been playing since
Yeah.
1986 together, you need to believe that they're still alive, they're still fresh, they're still purpose.
Mhm.
And rehearsing in a room in Los Angeles, getting ready, you kind of think about the song while you're playing it, technically, the gear you're using, the tempo, but when
Mhm.
you're on stage, none of that matters. It's just you're in the moment. And so
Yeah.
we don't rehearse very much. We just play uh, the songs. We don't really practice the songs, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I remember one of my favorite drummers, who's a great, the technician of all time, Buddy Rich. They say, "Well, how often
Yes.
do you?" That I don't practice. I play gigs every night, and the practice starts, the practice is when I was a kid. And that's really the charm of me and Navarro. We met when we were 15, and then I met Eric and Perry. I was only 17, if Dave was 17, 18. And that kind of lifelong friendship, creatively, in a business partnership, looking at the world as far as traveling together, and who do you want to travel with if you're going to go to a beautiful city, or if you're going to go to a city it's not beautiful and you got to tough it out. Who do you want to be there with? All that goes into being in a band.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of different elements make the original lineup, I think, so, not fragile, but very, it's in the moment. It's really in the moment. We can't look back. We can't look forward. We have to be in it this moment. And that's why, the imminent redemption and that
Yes.
song, the way it was played was live in the studio as a take. And it's so many the world of crafting and fixing and redoing that really gets in the way of what Jane's Addiction needs to have to sound like. Imminent Redemption grabs that
Hmm.
sound. That each verse is, like I say, it's a crescendo. Each verse is a crescendo. It starts over and it builds, and then it starts over and it builds. So that's really the charm of the band, is to react off each other, get large, because the bass line, when I met Eric, I was 17, and his bass playing showed me a way how I can find a rhythm, like an MC Escher painting, black and white duck. They fit together. But then again, I can just fly away from the rhythm, because I know when I come back, he almost serves the drummer's purpose, in the sense that it's a melodic bass line and it's a song, but it's also a rhythmic pattern. And so
Hmm.
he's a rhythmic bass player. If you take away the notes and the song he's playing and just think about the rhythm, I can play just with the rhythm. And then
Yeah.
I can be a percussionist and get away from it, slant it, tilt it, leave it
Hmm.
alone, come back, and it's just the rhythm. And then, of course, examine the musical part of it, the song part, the dynamic part, the crescendo part. But so rhythmically, as a 17-year-old, he really opened my eyes on how rhythms can work together and not don't have to be unison, which is great for bass and drums, but doesn't have to be unison, and it can be more of a polyrhythm, and we can be doing separate rhythms and still form one rhythm,
Hmm.
So that happens on stage a lot. And so to make Mountain Song fresh, make Ain't No Right feel urgent, you
Hmm.
know, uh, it comes naturally when you play with these guys. It just starts to happen.
Hmm.
And that, I think, is the magic that people hear in the new song. If they tune in onto what the band is doing, it's a live performance, and that's what's happening on stage. And that's when the show's over, people walk away with that experience of honest musicians. When I was young, I knew Miles Davis was alive. Unfortunately, I never went and saw him, but he would
Yeah.
surround himself with these great players, and
Hmm.
they would have a conversation on stage, and that's so rare nowadays. And
Yeah.
so Jam Fiction has this great conversation up there. Usually, it's pretty, it's clarified where everyone can see what we're doing. It's even though there's a lot happening, it's only three musicians,
Yeah.
and there's a lot going on, but it's really quite apparent when you're in the room what we're doing. And the sound man, Dave Gomez, is just a brilliant maestro. Uh,
Hmm.
he knows what to do as far as the real estate from
Hmm.
low to high, sky and the floor and the soil and all that. What's he do with the real estate for people's ears? It's such an important job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
also you make it look so easy up there, and you always have. But but now you see a new generation of kids looking at you going, "See, now that's what I want to do." It's so much harder than it looks. And so, what kind of
Uh,
advice do you give to those kids?
well, I'm really as far as when I started, I wanted to replicate my heroes, and that became a moment where I knew I had to find my own sound. And I think that's the moment we're looking for, because technically we're all learning from the same book how to fundamentally bounce a stick.
Hmm.
Uh, of course, your record collection has a lot to do with it. When I was young, I played to records that I loved. And as I grew a little, maybe in my mid teens, I started buying records that I wasn't familiar with, almost a cold call record, and see what it would do to my drumming. And if it was a Latin record or a hip hop record, or if it was a Eastern Indian record with tabla drumming, I try to perform to something that's kind of like out of your normal zone. I think that really helps. And then, of course, finding great musicians to play with. Then usually it's a musician that's better than you that I think can help, because if you have a tennis match and the guy's just beneath you, it won't be a good game. If you
Hmm.
have equal players, it's a great game. If someone's a little better, you're going to have to try harder. So I love that experience of being surrounded by great musicians and having them pull me in directions that maybe not comfortable, but that growth experience is part of learning your craft. So, surround yourself with some great players, challenge yourself with music that's not quite familiar, and put yourself in that position and see if you can accomplish something with it. And then again, of course, that simple dedication to you and your craft where no one else is in the room. And you have to spend a lot of time alone with your instrument. If it's a harmonica, it's a bongo, if it's an upright bass, saxophone, you have to do it. You have to spend time alone with it and have this relationship with your
Hmm.
instrument. So I think those things are important. And I still use those tools to move forward.
Yeah. I love that. You'll like this. My co-host is Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys. Caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of Fame. We're so proud of him. And he went, yeah, he's the best. And
Yes.
he wanted me to make sure that I asked you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. So curious to know what that is for you.
Well, yeah, tell you the truth, it's realizing that I don't always have that confidence to say yes. And so it's the moment when I realize I've got courage,
Hmm.
because you really can protect yourself to the point where you stop growth. And I've learned how to face those fears as a musician, face those fears as a artist when you think, I don't know if I can do this.
Hmm.
And no matter what you've prepared for, you probably can do it if you just, what does it mean? It doesn't, what is a success? That if you have your picture that you drew, you want to reach that. And my potential, I don't think I've tapped into it yet. I'm
Hmm.
still trying to get something, extract something from my playing. I'm still looking for that extraction where I can say that is pure positively great. So that Hail Mary moment is still that yearning. I'm still hungry. So that I have to thank God for, or the spirit of the music, the Jimi Hendrix, the John Bonhams, the Keith Moons that all inspired me, and all the cats that made me think it's possible to be great. And it's strange because the music I play, like I say, it's a young, very young art form. And I'm
Hmm.
50 in 2 weeks. And the
Wow.
music is really quite young, that we
Yeah.
that I do and I perform with. So I'm really honored to be part of that pie that is rock and roll, you
Yeah.
know, and to be Jane's Addiction and even Porno for Pyros, Infectious Grooves, and Banyan, and all the grooves that I've done. It's part of that rock and roll stew, and
Hmm.
that's just it's such an honor. It really is a great honor to be part of that, and a really important ingredient, a real interesting flavor. You know,
Yeah. I love that. Well, part of that is that mindset, right? You got to put yourself in the right space to be able to do this, right?
absolutely, man. And you have to free yourself and not be afraid. I always think of that Jackson Pollock moment because before he did throw the paint, he used brushes like everybody else. But the
Mhm.
courage to throw the paint and to know people are not going to get it, and it didn't matter. You had to do it, So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like rock and roll, punk rock, jazz, hard swing, bebop. We have to do it. It's not even, it has to happen. And we don't know why, but this is what we do. And we get behind our instrument. And it's great when the Jane's Addiction band itself is on stage because that to me is really the bullseye, the target that I felt when I was 17, 18. I always thought, wouldn't it be great to have a band that for decades,
Mhm.
decades. I mean, this is as a teenager, but for
Mhm.
decades, I want to write more music. That to me is the most important thing is new music. But playing the old songs and having that reaction, like I was explaining earlier, in the room, and having people with the lyrics and the dynamics, having that is what I wanted when I was a teen. So I really got it. So
Yeah.
that happy.
Well, speaking of which, are we going to get some more new music soon? Because we love that single and can't wait to see where this goes.
Thank you. We have a lot of stuff in our hearts, and our fingers and our hands can do we can do it. We just have to take the time together. So when the tour's over, it'll be great because we had 7 weeks in Europe. Now we have 8 weeks across America. And after all that time together, I think there'll be some really interesting things that could happen. I mean, that's
Hmm.
important. There's
Uh,
there's there's that experience of what's next. And that's also cool because it's a surprise to us too. We're not sure what's
yeah.
next.
That's cool. Well, of course, the I got a chance. I live here in Dallas, but I got a chance to see the show in Houston, and it is fantastic, and the song selection is so great, but also probably pretty tough because you guys probably want to kind of do a little bit of everything. So will we hear something a little bit different in here in Oklahoma this weekend?
Well, I really, to me, the songs that are the real long journeys, which is Ted Just Admitted,
Yeah.
3 days, Then She Did, a song we play called Kettle Whistle that was written in the 80s with us at the very beginning. Those songs to me have that great pin drop moment and that incredible volcano explosion all in one song. So those songs I have to be in the set. Summertime Rolls. Um, but yeah, you're right, man. I as a musician, I would love to have I guess you can say almost like a bucket where people can come in and reach in and say, play this song now. And I would love to be that, you know,
Yeah.
at the ready. But
Mhm.
we'll see what we do, I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, of course. Who knows?
Yeah, so we
Got to
gotta
roll the
maybe
dice,
we should
right?
open up with Caught Stealing and the
Yeah.
show with Caught Stealing.
You never know. You got to roll the dice, right? I mean, when
Yeah,
in the
man.
casino.
That's what I'm
That's
saying. I get to just roll the dice of song list and
yeah,
pick songs during the show that are in any order that they pick. I think that would be exciting for the players.
yeah, that would be fun. Well, you know what? I think I might need to come and see this weekend. I'm gonna have to go for round two, right?
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate the you know the music is different every night, and if someone is there to see a different show, or even if the song takes on a different lifetime, because it really is 3 days can be played in 8 minutes, and one night it's 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Why? it was just it's what we're playing on stage, what we're thinking, what we're not thinking, and it goes from
Mhm.
there. So anything's possible. But yeah, I'm so happy you saw the show. Houston was a slamming night.
Yeah.
Dallas was incredible. And here we are in the middle of what I would consider something that was so out of reach 2 or 3 years ago, the original band members playing. And then a
Hmm.
year ago, when Dave, of course, we had with the great Troy and Josh help us get through those bumpy times. We sounded wonderful, but now it feels like a really a homecoming every night. So thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and the incredible answers. Hope you have a great time out there. If you do gamble, I hope you do great. And we'll see you this weekend.
Okay, thanks, man. Good
Okay,
afternoon.
thank you so much. Okay, bye bye.